She will trust me only if she sees me entrusted with some object most dear to her when she was in the palace. That's why I must take such an object along with me. In the dressing alcove," said the king. "At the palace of the bright sun, there is a pair of gold bracelets, originally worn by our golden sage Pallas. Because that day was the festival when she had to tie 5 colored threads to her arms, she took off the bracelets. As these were some of her favorite things, they are still kept in a jewel box. Because of the way we were separated, however, we could not bear the sight of these bracelets, for they reminded us so much of her lovely face. The moment we see them, we would be sicker than ever. Let's not talk about illness anymore," said Pilgrim. "Bring me the bracelets. If you can part with them, give them to me. If not, I'll just take one of them." The king asked the Jade Sage Pallas to take them out. When the king saw the bracelets, he cried several times, "Dearest, dearest lady," before handing them over to Pilgrim. After Pilgrim took them, he put them on his arm. "Dear great sage." He refused the wine of merit and mounted the cloud somersault instead. With a whistle, he arrived once more at the Unicorn Mountain. Too preoccupied to enjoy the scenery, he at once began searching for the cave. As he walked along, he heard the raucous noise of people speaking. When he stood still to look more carefully, he found soldiers posted at the entrance of the cave of Mythic Beast, some 500 of them. All tightly lined up and densely arrayed. Tightly lined up, they held spears and swords, which gleamed in the sun. Densely arrayed, they unfurled the banners, which fluttered in the wind. Tiger generals, bear captains, all able to change. Leopard warriors, striped cat marshals, most spirited. Gray wolves, how savage. Brown elephants, still more potent. Sly hare, clever deer, wielding halberds and swords. Long snakes, huge serpents, hung with sabers and bows. The chimpanzee, who understands human speech, leads the troops, secures the camp as one informed. When Pilgrim saw them, he dared not proceed. Instead, he turned and walked back out the way he came. Why did he turn back, you ask? It was not because he was afraid of them. Actually, he returned to the spot where he had slain the little fiend and found again that brass gong and that yellow banner. Facing the wind, he made the magic sign. Thinking the image, he went into motion. With one shake of his body, he changed himself into the form of Going and Coming. Banging loud his gong, he stepped forward in great strides and marched right up to the cave of the Mythic Beast. Just as he was looking over the cave, he heard the chimpanzee say, "Going and Coming, are you back?" Pilgrim had no alternative but to reply, "I'm back. Get inside quickly," said the chimpanzee. "The great king is waiting for your reply at the skinning pavilion." On hearing this, Pilgrim strode inside the front door, still beating his gong. Once inside, he saw hanging cliffs and precipitous walls, rock chambers and quiet rooms. There were exotic grasses and flowers on the left and right, and there were plenty of old cedars and aged pines front and back. Soon he walked through the second-level door, where he saw an octagonal pavilion with 8 translucent windows. In the middle of the pavilion was a gold-inlaid armchair, on which was seated solemnly a demon king. Truly, he had a savage appearance. You see, colored nimbus soaring up from his head, and violent air bursting forth from his chest. Pointed teeth protrude like rows of sharp swords. His temples' tousled locks flare like red fume. Whiskers like arrows stick onto his lips. Hairs wrap his body like blanket layers. Mocking Jupiter are 2 copper bell eyes. An iron club he holds looks tall as the sky. Though Pilgrim saw him, he was bold enough to make light of the monster spirit. Without in the least affecting good manners, Pilgrim turned his back on him and kept beating the gong. "Have you returned?" asked the Fiend King, but Pilgrim did not answer him. "Going and Coming, have you returned?" he asked again, and still Pilgrim did not answer him. The Fiend King walked up to him and tugged at Pilgrim, saying, Why are you still beating the gong after you have come home? I ask you a question, and you don't answer me. Why?" Dashing the gong to the ground, Pilgrim cried. "What's this? Why? I told you I didn't want to go, and you insisted that I should. When I got there, I saw countless men and horses already arrayed in battle formations. The moment they saw me, they cried, 'Seize the monster spirit! Seize the monster spirit!' Pushing and shoving, they hauled me bodily into the city to see the king, who at once ordered me executed. It was fortunate that counselors from both rows of ministers invoked the old maxim that when two states are at war, the envoys are never executed. They spared me and took away the declaration of war. Then they sent me out of the city, where before the entire army they caned me 30 times on my legs. I was released to tell you that they would be here soon to do battle with you. As you have put the matter," said the fiend king. "You have lucked out. No wonder you didn't answer me when I questioned you." Pilgrim said, "I was silent not because of anything. It's just that I was nursing my pain, and that's why I didn't reply." "How many horses and men do they have?" asked the fiend king one more time. Pilgrim said, "I was scared silly, and I was further intimidated by their beatings. You think I would be able to account for the number of their horses and men? All I saw in thick rows were bows, arrows, sabers, mail, and armor, lances, swords, halberds, and tasseled banners, poleaxes, crescent spades, and head coverings, huge axes, round shields, and iron caltrops, long battle staffs, short, fat cudgels, steel tridents and petards and helmets, too. To be worn are tall boots, headgear, and quilted vests, crops and whips, sleeve pellets, and bronze mallets." When the fiendish king heard this, he laughed and said, "That's nothing. That's nothing. A little fire and all such weapons will be wiped out. You should go now and tell Our Lady Golden Sage not to worry." When she heard that I was growing angry and about to go into battle, she was already full of tears. "Why don't you go now and tell her that the men and horses of her country are most fearsome and that they will certainly prevail against me? That ought to give her some relief for a while." On hearing this, Pilgrim was very pleased, saying to himself, "Old monkey can't ask for anything better. Look at him. He seems to be peculiarly familiar with the way." Rounding a small side door, he passed through halls and chambers. Deep inside the cave, you see, were all tall buildings and edifices, quite unlike what was in front. When he reached the rear palace where the Lady Golden Sage lived, he saw brilliantly colored doors. Walking through these to look around, he found 2 choirs of fiendish vixen and deer, all made up to appear as beautiful maidens standing on the left and right. In the middle was seated the lady, who held her chin in her hand as tears fell from her eyes. Indeed she had soft, youthful features, seductive good looks, too lazy to do her hair. She left it piled up loosely, loathful of makeup. She wore neither pins nor bracelets. Her face had no powder, she being scornful of rouge. Her hair had no oil, for she kept unkempt her tresses. Her cherry lips pouted, as she clenched her silvery teeth. Her moth brows knitted, as tears drenched her star-like eyes. All her heart yearned for the scarlet-purple ruler. All her thoughts dwelled on fleeing at once this snare and net. Truly it had been thus. The fate of fair ladies was always harsh. Weary and silent, she faced the east wind. Walking up to her and bowing, Pilgrim said, "Greetings." "This insolent imp," barked the lady. How brash could he be? During the time when I shared the glory with the scarlet-purple ruler, those grand preceptors and prime ministers would prostrate themselves before me and dared not even raise their heads. How could this wild fiend just address me with a greetings? Where did this rustic boor come from? Some of the maids went forward and said, "Madam, please do not be angry. He is a trusted junior officer of Father Great King, and his name is going and coming. He was the one sent to deliver the declaration of war this morning." On hearing this, the lady suppressed her anger and said, "When you delivered the declaration, did you reach the Scarlet Purple Kingdom?" "I took the declaration," replied Pilgrim, "straight into the capital, reaching, in fact, the Hall of the Golden Chimes. After I saw the king in person, I took his reply back here." "When you saw the king," said the lady, "what did he have to say?" Pilgrim said, "He claimed he was ready to fight, and just now I have already told the great king about how the enemy forces were being disposed." That ruler, however, also expressed great longing for Madam. He wanted to convey a few words of special interest to you, but there are too many people around, and I can't speak here. On hearing this, the lady shouted for the 2 rows of Vixen and Deer to leave. After he closed the palace door, Pilgrim gave his own face a wipe and changed back into his original form. He said to the lady, "Don't be afraid of me. I am a priest sent by the great Tang in the land of the East to go seek scriptures from Buddha in the Thunderclap Monastery of India in the great Western Heaven. My master is Tripitaka Tang, the bond brother of the Tang Emperor, and I am Sun Wukong, his eldest disciple. When we passed through your kingdom and had to have our travel rescript certified, we saw a royal proclamation issued for the recruitment of physicians. I exercised my great ability in the therapeutic arts, and I cured the king of his illness of ardent longing. During the banquet he gave to thank me, he told me while we were drinking about how you were abducted by the fiend.